Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Jessica Del Vecchio, and I'm the Economic Development Manager for the City of Boca Raton. We are live now through the Boca Tribune. Thank you, Douglas Heiser and your team, for allowing us to use this platform. Today, I am joined by Rob Levi, who is a Boca Raton resident and a small business owner, both inside and outside the City of Boca Raton city limits. We'll talk about both of your businesses, get your perspective on what you're going through with some of the challenges, the negotiation discussions, the concerns you have as a local business owner surrounding, obviously, COVID-19. And then Hillary Zalman is on the line with us as well. And she is a commercial litigator for the past 14 years, admitted to the Florida Bar Association as well as the federal bar. So thank you both for being here. I think the perspective from Rob and, of course, from Hillary would be very valuable. Casual discussion. Just, Rob, why don't you go ahead and introduce yourself and let us know a little bit about you.
Hi, guys. Hope you're well. My name is Robert Levy. Been a resident of Boca Raton for 10 years, moved here from London. I'm now a US citizen with my family. I own and operate several businesses. The main one is CrossFit Hardcore East, the station in East Boca, which is a CrossFit gym for family and members. I also operate a restaurant called Bagel Works in West Boca, unincorporated city, unincorporated Boca Raton. Clearly, we've all been hit by the virus. I'm happy to be asked and help in any way I can. And I'm sure we're all experiencing similar difficulties and happy to give my pound of flesh.
Love it. Thank you so much. Hillary, why don't you do a quick introduction, give us some background on what you're doing to help the community, as we discussed earlier.
Sure. So as you mentioned, I own Zalman Law PA, which is based here in South Florida, and our primary focus is on commercial litigation, focused on landlord-tenant law. And obviously, with everything going on with COVID-19, we are getting inundated with questions from landlords and tenants. What's going on with the current laws? What's going to happen with rents, with leasing? And what are my options? So that's what we're dealing with every day. I've been dealing with this over a decade, and we're trying to make predictions of what's going to happen right now.
Excellent. Yeah, no one has a crystal ball. If I could, before we go any further, if I can have you guys mute when you're not talking, we're getting a lot of feedback, just so when people are tuning in later on today, they can hear it clearly. But I think it's great, the perspective that Robert's going to give us, and I'm sure I have been inundated with calls from business owners as well. Hillary will be able to shed some light on some of the resources that are available that are not known to us. So, Robert, why don't you tell us a little bit about how COVID affected not only the CrossFit gym, because that was probably a complete shutdown, versus the takeout and curbside kind of pivot within 24 hours for Bagel Works, and tell us how you've been able to be nimble enough to keep going.
Yeah, I mean, clearly the gym was affected literally overnight, as was all fitness facilities. And we've been closed since, the third week in March, closed our doors, as has everybody else in that business. We've had some very loyal members who've continued to pay their membership dues over the last couple of months. We did reduce the fees. We offered a loan equipment and daily workouts. And we were always a text or a phone call away should any of the members or their families need, really any assistance, from just chatting to workout questions and nutrition. And we made all our services available. And so for us, we're just waiting for that time when the governor's going to allow some form of reopening with whatever rules are necessary. And we'll be ready for that. We understand the health and safety of our members is paramount. And we're fortunate to have a membership base that's, very family orientated. We all get it. We're all in the same boat. We're all desperate to come back to exercise, but at the same time, we have to be aware there is, a pandemic out there. The restaurant was slightly different. Although that's not the city of Boca, that I had to be extremely nimble, and we've been there since 1991, and we really are known as an institution in Boca Raton.
Yeah, so tuna.
With the legendary tuna,
legendary tuna fish,
which we all love. So for us, we have 81 seats. Half our businesses take out, half our businesses sit down. So we knew kind of what was coming. It didn't take a rocket scientist to understand that there was going to be some major changes. So we started pushing our online presence via social media, ramping up the third-party apps, Uber Eats, Grubhub, etc., and really pushing something we've never done before, Curbside, primarily because it's such a busy little shopping centre, and we take up so many of the spaces. But with a lot of the tenants, unfortunately, either closed or barely operating, we saw it as an opportunity that people could literally, call the store. We'd bring the food out to them, and it's been a very steep and quick learning curve. But it's allowed us to offer our legendary tuna, of course, but continue to trade. Obviously, not so much from a making money standpoint, but I'm still employing people. We're still feeding the community, and we've met people from miles and miles away that although we've been in the area since 1991, these people have come from 9, 10, 12 miles away, mainly, I think, because initially many restaurants didn't offer curbside, and also because I think we were so few and far between. It's easy. You phone up, you turn up, and we just bring the food out to you. So we're grateful, I think, for the staff that have stayed with us, and it's been a challenge. So that's a completely different set of rules, I think, to the gym. One is shut completely and operating from a home basis, and the other is really on a day-by-day basis. When is he going to allow 20%? What is the rules going to be? How are we going to have social distancing in a completely different environment in a restaurant versus a gym? And it's the same for everybody. And again, most of our guests have been very kind, very helpful, very understanding that this is really a new business for us, which will probably stay in some shape or form. So we are living in extremely uncharted waters.
What percentage of your business would you say before the pandemic was takeout and curbside? Did you do a lot of it? When you said it was a big learning curve, was there a lot to that?
So our business was 50% sit down, we have 81 seats, and 50% takeout. And by takeout, I mean people would walk in the restaurant, it's a tiny lobby, but everybody sort of mingled, and it was,
I know it well.
You know it well. It's an interesting scene. It's like an episode out of Cheers.
Yeah.
But the switch, we never did curbside. We just,
I
suppose we never did it because we had the takeout and we had the restaurant. Why do it? And now the switch has been, 0 restaurant sales, predominantly now curbside, and our own online operation, plus the third party. But the change has just, really taken us by surprise. And I'm pleased it has, because I think it gives us and other restaurants out there an opportunity to continue, because we don't know what it's going to look like at the other end. And
right. No one knows. So just to shift gears, kind of let Hillary kind of chime in on some of the things here. So you've pivoted your business that is open. Obviously, you have to change you talked about the CrossFit, leasing out your equipment and such. But from a perspective of getting into the nitty gritty of the business side of things, money, how do you negotiate with your landlord? Have you, we don't want specifics on your business and who you're working with, that's your business, but just give us some of an overview of what you're seeing with 2 places, maybe more, but 2 businesses, how you're able to either negotiate your lease, rental rates, or, are they lenient or are they pay up? Just give us some insight if you could, without too much.
Yeah, I mean, my lease at my gym is a very simplistic lease. Our landlord has always been very approachable. We've had conversations during the corona, and he's been more than fair, more than flexible. I always come from the standpoint of not being antagonistic, to try and, basically we're partners. Tenant-landlord relationship should always be a partnership, regardless of the circumstances. And here we are in unprecedented times. It's not unreasonable that 2 adults just sit down at a table and say, okay, here's the deal. My doors are shut. My revenue is virtually 0. Everybody's at home. What are my options? And I think most landlords and I think most tenants have approached it that way. They have received some form of assistance. My other business, the restaurant, is a completely different landlord. So, and with different responses. And I understand that. Everybody has bills to pay. Everybody has a different lease, and we can all hide behind the terms of our lease. I know Hillary's the expert on that.
Yeah.
Physical damage is corona physical damage because it stays on surfaces. I'm sure we'll be discussing this. I think that most landlords, from what I understand, have been fair and willing. My biggest fear still is not so much the current issue, is what's going to happen when we come out the other side. How bad is business going to be? How fair and willing will landlords be to work with the tenants, whether it's renegotiating a lease, which I don't think they have to do, or just continuing to help in whatever way they can, because without the tenants, landlords become redundant.
Right. Hillary, can you chime in, please, and give us some insight on your expertise, please?
Sure. I think Robert brought up really good points, and I don't want to be the gloom of doom, but I think knowledge is power, and what I think is going to happen, and is already happening, landlords are filing damages already for the breach. Here's the thing: if you haven't paid rent, you're in breach. So the issue is, each landlord is unique, as he mentioned, and you might have a good relationship, you might have a bad relationship, but technically the question is, can your landlord pursue that breach, pursue the remedies under the breach, and when are they going to do it? And the Governor DeSantis, he issued an order April 2nd, supposedly putting the evictions on hold, and that really, in my opinion, is going to expire the tolling if you wait till the next Monday on the 19th of May. So I think, and then the courts are really going to start pushing things starting June 1st. So I think this time, as he mentioned, is a great time to reach out to the landlord, get something in writing. If you're going to do a deferment of rent, get an addendum to the lease, renegotiate. It would be now. This would be the time to do it. But it doesn't mean that you're not in breach now, or not in breach the day you stop paying rent. And there's other options too. I mean, if you're sitting there and you're wondering, what am I going to do? I think step one is you look at your commercial lease. Each one's different. You say, do I have a force majeure provision in my lease? Some of them allow deferment of rent. Some of them will say this doesn't even apply or fit in. If you don't have a good force majeure provision in your commercial lease, you look into the loans. Have you applied for it, or are you the SBA loans, the PPP loans? If that's not an option for you, there was also the FloridaDisasterLoan.org, which is special to our state, and they might still have funds in there. I don't check daily, but that's already been out for a while. I would call your insurance agent. Every commercial tenant pays for insurance, and some of that insurance might have coverage. You might have business interruption insurance. An insurer might say, it doesn't apply, but have an attorney review, tell them to send it over. See if you have some all-risk insurance, business interruption insurance. Ask your landlord if they have the insurance and can apply some of the funds to help carry this over. There's lots of options here.
Excuse me, sorry. Quick question. There's all of this discussions about essential and non-essential businesses. Are they treated differently by the law?
That's a fantastic question. We're getting a lot of those questions.
Me too.
Right. So here's the thing. If you're essential, if you're non-essential, and I'm looking at the executive order right now. It's Executive Order 20-94. No matter who you are, under Section 3, nobody's allowed to stop paying rent, period. So if you look at it that way, I think it can help prevent you from being blindsided, because there's a lot of arguments. Oh, well, you're not open. You could be open. You could be doing curbside. You could be doing this. And so you have to pay rent. At the end of the day, if you're a tenant, you should assume you have to pay rent. It's not on hold. And that's why the government's offering all these other options to try to help fund you during this time. But it's still difficult.
Very difficult, very challenging. We're hearing a lot of challenges out there in the community. Speaking of which, I would love to, I didn't do this last time when we had the call, but we had a few questions from the live chat. If people have questions specifically, certainly send them to us through the Boca Tribune Facebook page, and we'll do our best to answer them now. And if not now, then of course, reach back out later. So when you say, Rob, when you said you're getting back to business, obviously it'll probably be at a limited capacity when you are able to. How do you approach that? Let's start with the restaurant, because you're already up and running and operating at a smaller capacity. Would you keep the curbside as part of your business?
Yeah, I think curbside will go from a necessity to a luxury, because now people can just phone up, stay in their car. They don't even need to come and deal with all the aggravation of a crazy bagel works. And as long as there's no disruption in terms of traffic flow, because at the moment we're one of the few tenants that are open, they can literally pull up outside. They're going to need to use a little bit more common sense and park in parking spaces. Maybe the landlord will provide parking spaces for us on a short-term basis, and like an express parking space. But I think that's here to stay. clearly there's talk in the industry of disposable menus. We're investigating sneeze guards, which we've ordered to test. We're going to be doing significantly more cleaning. We've just hired Syntat, who will come in bi-monthly and desanitize and sanitize the restaurants and all the touch areas, all the things that all the big groups are going to do. One of the challenges we have, we're just a mum and pop business and not a corporate business. All these things do add layers of cost, time, and it's very hard to pass those on to our customers. That's really the last thing we want to do.
Right now, yeah, of course.
Right now. One of the interesting points, I just want to get back to what Hillary said about the business interruption insurance, which we have. We were advised, and I've taken that advice, is to claim. We'll probably be denied, but at least we've had the claim. Once I have a denial, then I have a decision to make. Do I pursue it with the insurance company through my agent? Do I maybe join some form of class action ? But once I have that in my hand, I think it might give tenants some extra firepower. But I would suspect, and Hillary's the expert on this, these type of ongoing lawsuits are going to be going on for years and years. The insurance companies will not settle for years, if at all.
Is it working? Yeah. So, right. And the business interruption, the all risk insurance, it's not something we're focused on right now. But yeah, I mean, going up against the insurance company is not easy, But if I think you're doing the exact right thing. If it joins within the class action, or you go through an attorney and they take on a number of these claims, at least you put in your claim. And that's what's important. I have a question for you is, North Florida's opening in some of their phase reopening, the 25%, allowing 25% openings and so on. Are you going to be contacting competitors in North Florida and saying, does this work? How's this work in terms of sanitation and otherwise?
That's a very good question. The answer is, now that you've told me, I think I will. I didn't actually think of that. I suppose we've become so insular in our own industries and day-to-day stuff, but sometimes we don't think of the bigger picture. The answer is yes, and the answer clearly is the sanitation requirements, the cleaning, the desanitizing are here to stay for years. Whether that means 20 bottles of hand sanitizer throughout the restaurant, it's just going to be the norm.
Your norm.
We've all seen it. I think as well, Hillary, one of the things that I think is frustrating for an individual business is when you read in the press that this company, the big boys call it, the big boxes have said, well, we're just not paying rent. We don't care. We're going to force our landlord to the table.
Negotiate, yeah.
And it's frustrating.
Well, let's talk about that a little bit, about evictions. I know we have a live question coming through that I think will be posted. Coming from Carolina Lieberman, who says, hello, are the courts evicting? Which is exactly where we were just going. Thank you, Carolina. So, Hillary, are we seeing that happening? Is it too soon? Does it really behoove a landlord to get someone out who's been there since 1991? I mean, I'm just using it as an example.
That's a great question and a multi-part question. So, to answer it directly, are they evicting? Some landlords, I would say against my recommendation, might be filing an eviction now. The courts are open. You can file a lawsuit. My recommendation would be to wait till Governor DeSantis' order expires, technically, because I think it could bring up defenses. And I would say starting around May 19th, that would be the time maybe to file. And then really courts, sheriffs, and it depends what county you're in, are really holding these writs. They're not going to start pursuing sheriff's writs until after June 1st. So there's going to be a little bit of a pileup, but I would say that is when there's going to be a lot of cases. Damages suits are already being filed now. We're filing 2 or more per day already. So the landlords are pursuing aggressively, at least through our firm, to evict and go after tenants. And I think part of it is to say, look, if you're in breach, we want to lay down the law here and show you're in breach and then negotiate with us. Perhaps negotiation will follow, but they don't want to waive their rights or hold back. So I think what you're saying, Robert, it would be in the best interest of the landlord and the tenant to work together. They don't want to have an empty shopping center, but I'm getting a lot of calls just to see on the other end. no, we want to pursue eviction, we want to pursue damages. I'm not sure behind the scenes if they're going to then negotiate. I think negotiation is always a positive, but there's going to be a lot of lawsuits in the next 2 weeks.
Yeah. And I think a lot of times we have to look at their perspective. You know, they own the buildings and they have a mortgage that they are on the hook for, or they're relying on that income. You know, when we say this is not like the housing implosion, if you will, where some people invested in the housing market and they got caught either on the short side. We truly are all in this together. So it does stem down from the banking industry and the people who do those mortgages. Is there any recourse at that level?
And I want to just bring up one more point. If you have a personal guarantee attached to your commercial lease, then this is a much more serious matter for you. If you're going to be sued for eviction or damages, then they're suing you personally as well. So that's why primarily I think looking to these options now is important. Trying to negotiate and get an addendum, deferring rent or whatnot now is important. If not, you might even need to consider talking to an asset attorney or bankruptcy attorney. And Jessica, can you clarify, just so I answer your question directly?
I was just we're looking at it from a tenant perspective into the landlord perspective. Is there anything a little bit higher up from the banking side of things that anyone anticipates seeing some sort of relief from the banking sector? I mean, it's speculation, of course, but we saw that in 2008 when the housing market, rates automatically were coming down and they were refining a lot of loans and short sales. Is this something that we might be seeing on the commercial side?
You know, it's not come out yet, but I do know that they're trying to refinance. This goes for the commercial and residential. People are trying to refinance. Interest rates are low, and that is something that then could pass through to their tenants by helping them save costs. And obviously, maybe they can get some insurance coverage and the PPP coverage for their own employees. You know, that's been coming through in the last few weeks. As well. The PPP loan, from what I've heard, I know some of the big banks did just release it, but about a week ago, the fastest I heard that coming through from my clients were people who were using smaller banks or had a direct connection with a commercial banker, and they could pick up how's my application instead of just going online and doing it and hoping for the best. I heard those went through the fastest. I don't know if that's true or just, you know, what I heard, but take the information as
good information. Right now, access to capital is one of the biggest things I think a lot of business owners have. Robert, anything that you wanted to touch upon with Hillary having her expertise here? I don't want to miss anything. I'm doing big picture, but I know for sure you kind of have a lot of things and challenges that you're going through.
A couple of things I'd like to add. I know, Hillary, you mentioned the Florida Business Disaster Loan, which we applied for actually through the restaurant. I think I applied within 5 or 6 days. I finally heard about 2 or 3 days ago with an email saying, you know, thank you very much for applying. Apparently all the funds, there was 50,000 applicants for 1,000 spots. We were unsuccessful. I knew we were going to be. And the fund ran out of money. So 1,000 people got it who applied. I mean, it's nothing. 1,000 businesses do nothing. We received the PPP money. We opened a separate bank account for it. And we are keeping, and I would advise anyone who has received it or is about to receive it to keep very, very careful receipts and ins and outs. Because it can be used for very particular reasons and you need right bookkeeping. If used successfully, if used carefully, it's a fantastic opportunity to bring back employees, to take them off unemployment, to use those employees in your business. You know, in my case, they're coming in, they're cleaning, they're helping with the curbside. The challenge will be after that 8-week period, and in South Florida, when we enter the summer and it's very seasonal, all those employees you hopefully brought back, what happens during the dead months of, you know, July, August, September? If this is still in the restaurant business, 25% or 50%, how do we balance that with ensuring we survive through a summer? That's an unknown.
I want to bring up something with that. So I was in another seminar talking to commercial litigation colleagues, and they brought up something, I think it was a great point. Maybe your landlord won't negotiate with you on rent, but you're talking about now, you might have new requirements. You might need less space. because you're having some people work remotely, or you might need more space because you need to have the 6-foot distancing or however the specifications are for your type of business. Some landlords can negotiate on that easier. They might be able to move you to a smaller space, reduce your rent and keep you as a tenant, or give you an empty space next door that's just sitting empty now. It's a great negotiation tool to use with landlords' space, and that'll, and directly affect your rent one way or the other. So this summer, that could be something that comes up. For a restaurant, you're already probably set up your space. I know a restaurant's a difficult situation because you're not going to do a new build out. But yeah, so that might apply better to other businesses like the gym or things like that, negotiating on space.
I mean, if I was to open a store too, which I would like, a Bagel Works Express, in the last 2 to 3 months, your whole game plan has changed from limited seating. Well, maybe now it's more of a ghost concept where you get together with 2 or 3 other restaurants and all you are is a curbside third-party delivery service. So now the whole requirements have changed. You just need a shared kitchen. A
lot of businesses have done that. Like they've pivoted to where they've become more of like a grocery store style pickup temporarily.
Look,
do what you can to survive.
We've never seen anything like this certainly in my lifetime. We will get through it. There will be casualties. And I think the more you can have dialogue with your landlord, tenant, vendors, the better it's going to be. I mean, we know there's going to be casualties, but people have to eat. We know for a fact that working out and exercise, and the obesity rate, I believe in the United States is 48%. And I did read that the virus seems to are obese. What better excuse for people when we get through this to get out, whether it's running, biking, I don't really care what it is, move, reduce the reliance on our health service, reduce the reliance on medicine, get healthy, join a gym, join whatever it has to be.
Yeah, join CrossFit. No. So quick thing, as we talk about it, I'm just starting to think about things. If I was a small business owner, you've been able to pivot and do curbside. Why should we be two things? Should we be encouraging other businesses, service businesses, to look at curbside? Like, why can't I get, in order to support the small business owners, do curbside from the pet store, the local pet store, do curbside from, I know we focus so much on the restaurant industry switching to curbside that I wonder if there are retailers doing that. You know what? I always buy my shirts over here, ABC store. Could you do a curbside so that they're not paying all the fees to deliver and all the logistics of getting it to your house? Curbside. I'm just trying to think when we do start to slowly but surely get out of this and we start to open up things little by little. Another thing is with the 25% capacity or 50% capacity at the restaurant level, will people want to go? Are they going to? If the perception is it good for? Can I now go get my tuna and sit down at Bagel Works with my family next to Hillary's family? I mean, I don't know. So people are so focused on opening business, and I totally understand. But when we do open, how does that look? Are people going to dine out? And where do they feel more comfortable? There's talks about people might feel more comfortable outdoors. So maybe parking lots be changed up a bit. So just something for us to think of as a community, if nothing else.
And you brought up an interesting point too, that just remember your lease, you're still bound by the lease. I keep bringing in the law, but your lease might prevent outside seating. It might prevent that. So as much as you can maintain that open communication with the landlord, as Robert Levy suggested, that is key. Just don't put your head in the sand. If I could recommend one thing, communicate with the landlord and get things in writing, signed by both parties, addendums, and work together as a team. Because technically, if they want to get you out on another reason, well, now you're changing your business up. That's different than you said, you're supposed to be doing this. You're supposed to be operating during these hours. They might get strict. So if you can negotiate that now, great. And then just move forward, if possible.
I think that's great.
I think as well, Jessica, one of the advantages as well this has brought out, I think it's brought out the good and the bad and the ugly, that if you can somehow forget the fact that another gym is your competitor, sure, they are, but if you can work closely with your landlords, closely with your staff and customers, and maybe somehow get together with another restaurant or another one at business and come and do something together to bring some economies of scale or bring people in. I mean, that's the whole concept behind, you know, the ghost kitchen. It's 2 or 3 different formats,
users.
Chinese. And,
We're all trying to succeed here. I get the kitchen from this time to that time.
Correct.
You know, I think it's smart. I think we are going to have some positives. I don't want to be, you know, rainbows and lollipops and all that. I want to be realistic, but there are a lot of takeaways that we're learning through this. Just downtown, you know, it's not a restaurant in a restaurant, but there's a restaurant downtown that was doing curbside, and the place next door was a salon, and they were, you know, basically shut down. And they were saying, buy a gift card of some sort, or buy a meal here, you get a discount when you go get your hair done. Like neighboring businesses are partnering, and I think that's the only way. We are all stronger together, and you either find synergies or complete opposites where you can bring something to the table. I love the ghost kitchen. I think we're going to see a lot of that. A lot of these, you know, ever hear of Bare Naked granola? They started in someone else's kitchen. They're a multi-billion-dollar company, you know. So I think there is a way to join forces, but like Hillary said, it's got to be in your lease to some degree.
I received another question too. Some commercial tenants are worried, are customers going to sue me if they get COVID at my place? And that's obviously a new issue as well. I think it's hard to prove where the contact occurred. But at the end of the day, I think there's going to be these as these phases come out from the governor and from the federal government. Each business is going to have their own unique itemized things they're supposed to do, salons, restaurants, this and that. And if you try to follow them to the best of the ability, the guidelines, and maybe even have some waivers depending on what kind of business you are, you've done the best you can. And I think that would be the legal argument. You're doing the best you can, and people are taking this at their own risk by entering into a public place. As long as you don't knowingly employ people who are sick and knowingly, spreading it, then and following guidelines, you're probably okay.
Yeah, I think we're all doing the best we can, for sure. Let's see. We have some posts coming through. Great information. Great info. Todd Weiss says, I posted an ad on Craigslist to rent my kitchen to a good truck owner or bakery owner or food caterer. Okay. Well, we're seeing some things change. It's those that pivot in any economy, in any downturn on the economic side that seem to be, being the innovators, the true disruptors. I want to make sure before we go that I haven't missed anything from the two of you. Great perspective. I think ideally, Hillary, we might have to have you on a lot more. There's a lot of businesses that need help. The free advice, the insight that you have that I just don't have, Anything, Robert?
I don't want people to be blindsided. The takeaway would be, don't be blindsided. If you're a commercial tenant, I want you to assume you're going to be evicted. That way, if you stop paying rent, that way you go to every option you can now. You reach out to the landlord. You do everything you can so you are not blindsided. And if you do go through that eviction process, you retain legal counsel. You try to defend yourself, and then still negotiate with the landlord. It's not over. But I just don't hide your head in the sand and think that's not going to happen. It's going to be months from now. It's going to be years from now. I want you just to address it today after you sign off today.
Perfect. Good advice. Robert, any closing remarks? Anything that you would like to
No, I think
say?
Hillary hit it on the ball. We've all signed a lease, and I would try and think out the box as much as possible. Work with your landlord, work with your neighbors, work with your guests. We are in uncharted waters, so we have to be very nimble and very flexible. But great tips, Hillary. Thank you.
And I want to bring in one more point to go with that. You be the partner, like you said, with the landlord. Offer solutions, offer tips, come up with ideas. Because again, this has never happened before. So help with that creative negotiation, or bring in an attorney or a business partner. But offer things that you believe can help you move together as partners going forward.
Agree.
Yeah, we've heard a few things out of the box. I know we're going to get going, but a few things out of the box. People negotiating that they want to do like a percentage of sales while they get through this, or negotiating the lease and putting things further out. So maybe they don't pay for 2 months. These are private deals. This is not the city. This is just what we're hearing. People not paying for a month or two and then tacking it on to the end of their lease. But like you said, it's just best to negotiate directly with your landlord and go from there, because there's a lot of moving parts.
your last month's rent or maybe somebody's security and immediately start a payment plan next month with it. So the landlord's getting income in their account.
Right.
Good try.
Okay, Hillary, would you give us your contact information for anyone who will be tuning in and anyone who's tuning in now, so that they
Sure,
can
please.
reach out?
And I'll write it in the chat too, but we're Zalman Law. You can go to zalmanlawfirm.com. You can call us directly, 561-716-3327 anytime. I'll put up my email and our link in the chat after this signs off. And please do not hesitate to contact us with questions anytime. We love talking to people.
Great. Robert, I know CrossFit is closed right now, but would you give us some of your hours and the curbside and what you're doing through Bagel Works so that people can know that you're here and support? So many people, more than ever, I think, are coming out to support local businesses. I know even in my own home, we're doing things that we've never done before, and it feels good, to do well by doing good. So give us some insight on Bagel Works, please.
So we're open 8 till 2 daily. That's subject to change. We may extend it if the loosening up happens. Online, obviously, Uber, Groupon, Postmates, Delivery Do's, the normal. Bagelworks.com is where to go to order your online. And the gym, when it reopens, will have classes 6 days a week. Our first class is 6 a.m. and our last class is 6:30. And we're available for all levels, families, plus personal training. And that's located in East Boca, just by the railway tracks.
Love it. Okay, thank you both so much.
Thank
if you
you.
could just stay on the line so the three of us can catch up. Douglas, thank you so much for allowing us to use the Boca Tribune's platform.
Thanks, Jessica.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you. Hi.
Thank everybody.
Thank you, guys.